I think everyone knows that feeling of Christmas morning as a child. It's the one day of the year that you make sure you go to bed early to get to Christmas morning, mainly for one thing: presents. Whether it was a new action figure or Barbie doll, a new four-wheeler, or even a book on quantum physics. We all wanted something new. Whether it was a new controller, a new game like Call of Duty or WWE, or even getting a PS4 when I was 11. But there is one thing that I remember getting for multiple Christmases. That was a new NHL game. I was a very big hockey fan growing up, and still am. And the NHL games have impacted my life in many ways, and this is the story of it. My journey starts at the end of kindergarten when I got a hand-me-down PS2 from a family friend. And it originally came with 4 games: Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, Madden 08, the World Series of Poker, and NHL 2001. This was the game I sunk my time into. I'd always play as different teams and play 5-minute periods. I would turn off rules like offsides, icing, and penalties and just play the game. The game was like an arcade game, shooting the puck, hitting other players, and getting into occasional fights. And if this does not seem like an arcade fight to you, then I don't know what it is. But after a few months, I got bored of this game, and I had asked my dad if he could get me new games. He told me to give him a second. He went into the bedroom closet and pulled out 4 games. 2 of them he told me I could not play, which made sense considering they were Gun and GTA San Andreas. I wasn't really upset with this because the other 2 games were ESPN NFL and NHL 2K5. Now these 2 got me through the rest of the year without a new game. Both these games have insane depth into them, and it showed that the developers cared for them, unlike EA. Now out of these 2, I've played the NHL game the most. This one had a lot of content. It had a very realistic gameplay with momentum meters and dynamic pacing, a deep franchise mode that had stuff like coaching staff, scouting, happiness, fatigue ratings, and line chemistries, a boatload of teams to play with including historic teams and every jersey that had been in the league since the concept of it, a mode where you could play all kinds of all-star skill competitions like breakaway relays, 1v1, hardest and accurate shot, and speed contests, and an arcade party mode with different little mini-games. This game had me coming back to it every day and finding something new to play, or just having fun. Of course, there was one problem with it. It had an older roster, which didn't have some of the exciting players that had entered the league since then. I started to watch hockey and started to take notice of the young stars that were taking over, like Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Malkin, Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, the Sedin twins, and Sidney Crosby, before he got drugged on the ice that year. Yeah, this hit had me crying on the stairs. Anyways, I looked online and saw NHL 08. I asked my parents and they actually said yes and ordered it, and this game I played a lot. This was the last gen version, but was still good. It had realistic gameplay updates they added back in NHL 2004, a decent franchise mode, nothing like what 2K had to offer, and a more archaic feel, which isn't a bad thing. Later entries would switch to more realistic feels, but there were 2 things that stick out: the jersey and soundtrack. That year was the first year that Reebok had their contract with the NHL to be jersey suppliers for the teams, and they were going to be in the game this year. Well, half of them. It only gave the teams that didn't make the playoffs the jerseys, which didn't make the game feel complete. There was a code to get them all, but do you really think an 8-year-old's going to know there's a code? Now, this covers more than 08, but the soundtrack of this era was amazing. They had some of the best songs of the series that many people listen to today, even me right now typing out the script. They had some hits like Jimmy Eats Worlds of Sweetness,
If you're listening, whoa.
Bullet for My Valentine's, Hearts Burst Into Fire, Sum 41's Fat Lip,
I don't wanna waste my time, become another casualty of society.
Green Green Day's Do You Know the Enemy, Paramore's Misery Business, and my personal favorite, Avenged Sevenfold's Back Country. These songs defined that generation, and to be honest, there's nothing like it. Like, come on, there was a song in NHL 19 called My Favorite Color is Blue.
And now my favorite color is blue.
Thank God I skipped that year. I'd also play some NHL 2K10 and NHL Slapshot on the Nintendo Wii. These games didn't have anything remarkable besides motion controls. Well, now that I think about it, 2K did have Ride the Zamboni and the Winter Classic. These two games held me until early 2014 when I got a PS3 with NHL 12 and Madden 13. They were the only games I had for the first month. While NHL 12 did come with NHL 3-on-3 Arcade, which was a great break from NHL 12 time to time. Now, at the time of release, this was the best that EA had to offer since starting the series back in '91. The physics-based engine that the game had was one of the best, and it felt fluent. With it being like this for the past couple of games, with not much needing change, but they added small stuff to make it better, like helmets flying off, hits that could break the glass, and the biggest one is the new goalie collisions, which could lead to some big collisions and now goaltender interference calls. They also added the previous Winter Classic into the game, and sorry, this is still just a sore subject. But backtracking about a year or two, I started to watch the game and actual hockey on YouTube, which led me to 2BC Productions. He was mainly a hockey YouTuber, but dabbled into different games like Minecraft, Civilization, Happy Wheels, and Call of Duty, which is also where I got my start of that game and commentaries. And that's called foreshadowing. But he did a lot of NHL videos on the different modes like Be a Pro, Ultimate Team, Shootout Commentaries, ECHL, and the most popular, GM mode. I remember watching these a lot. The mode has a lot of depth to it, so it can be fun watching and playing. Also, he had some great reactions.
Dad, enough! Dad, enough! That mother...
I had so much fun with this game, and at the fact that the OHL was in the game. Now, even though I'm a diehard Penguins fan, it's kind of hard for me to go to every game, but there is a team close to me where I live called the Erie Otters. They're a part of the CHL, which has different leagues spread over Canada to develop hockey players in Canada and northern US, with the Otters having some players that made it into the NHL, like Connor McDavid. It would get better each year. NHL 13 added hockey moments, GM connected, a new skating engine, and new goalie AI, meaning you could score in different ways, and there was no more spam scoring holding the wrist shot. But cross-crease goals were still the easiest way to score. There's no way of fixing that. And NHL 14 was one of the best games, which I didn't get. It's a regret I have ahead of having an actual life outside this room. This is on my bedroom door every time I walk out, so I can't forget about it. They added a new Fight Night system from EA's Fight Night series and collision physics into the game, changing the pacing of the game again. This is regarded as one of the best games in the series and is fondly remembered by fans. And EA was doing so well that 2K stopped making the NHL games, which since then there's been no more competition. And after NHL 14, EA sent half of their developers to make another game, which was the UFC games, which would lead to a slight decline in games. NHL 15 was the first game in the series to jump to the 8th generation of consoles, and there was nothing in the new game. It looked like the Florida Panthers arena in the 2010s. They got rid of a lot of modes converting the series over, and the ones that made the jump lost a lot of features like GM mode and Be a Pro, with no sight of ECHL, Shootout mode, and the most popular, GM Connected. Really, the only thing that had everything intact from the year before was HUT, which was the only year I played the mode. The NHL ones aren't as addicting as MUT or FUT, in my opinion. And the gameplay took a turn for the worse. The gameplay felt sluggish from time to time. a trend the series would take on this generation. But next year they would add a lot of stuff back into the game, including the modes that were missing. Except GM Connected. Face it, they'll never add it again. Even though this was a step up from NHL 15, I didn't really get it. Mainly because I was young and I didn't have money. And the next one I got was a couple years later with NHL 18. And fun fact, this is the first year that Adidas was a jersey supplier for the NHL, and they were all in the game at launch. So take that, NHL 08. That year, EA added NHL 3s into the game, which was previously known as NHL 3-on-3 Arcade. This was a nice break from the game and added some fun into it, but the majority of players went to other modes like ACHL, Be a Pro, Hut, and Franchise. I think one of the reasons why people play this mode a lot is because it has a lot of depth to it. Now, is it like what 2K had to offer? No, far from it, but comparing this to the other EA games, with some of them copying things from this game and pasting it over, they would add more to these modes in later games. Like in 19, they added a revamped scouting system and Fog of War, which lets you use scouting other teams to get more accurate overalls, mainly for trades. And in 20, added coaching and chemistry into the game, which really made you put more thought into adjusting your lines and having good coaching in the AHL so that your prospects can develop. Another thing they added in NHL 19 was the World of Chell, which was rivaling 2K's Smart Park, which is inferior to that, but it still has its own magic. I'd play this a lot, unlocking mystery boxes and completing daily objectives to try to customize my player the best I could. Now the gameplay is still sluggish, me being more frustrated at some of the stuff like passing and the AI defensive positioning. They did add some improvements to NHL 19 to make it passable, but it wasn't like it was in NHL 14. And this might be a complaint to some, but EA was still on the Night engine compared to the Frostbite engine, like other games, which I was fine with because with Madden. But on the jump to the 9th generation, they didn't make the same mistake they did with NHL 15. NHL 22 kept everything in contact, with them adding X Factors, roster sharing, and the Frostbite engine, which I didn't have much of complaint about except for some minor glitches here and there, which feels better than the previous generation. And X Factors feel like they have a difference in the game. I got my hands on 23, and they really didn't add anything besides crossplay because the developers say they are fully focusing on NHL 24, which gives me hope. Now I know we are talking about EA, but it's with the same feeling that hockey is giving to me right now. There is hope in the air, and it seems the NHL are getting out of the so-called boys club era and trying to progress the game. They are fully behind players that have amazing skill sets and speed like Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, Austin Matthews, Leon Draisaitl, Trevor Zegras, and Connor McDavid. While still being physical and delivering contact unlike any other league, the NHL was also able to get new TV deals with ESPN and TNT to grow the game, even with Adidas releasing reverse retro jerseys in 2021 and 2022. Now there are still some dark spots in the league, some darker than others, but it's giving me hope for the future of the sport, which has surprisingly gotten me to cross off the second thing on my list, and has taken me out of the house to go back to Otters games. I can't wait to see what the future of hockey has to offer, and I'm all here for it.